Linda altered this speech given at her prior club as an icebreaker to be a lesson for her in organizing a speech. You will get to know Linda Earls here at her new home where she works to create an outline that can be followed with a clear message with supporting material and appropriate transitions. Please help me welcome Linda Earls.
Welcome, Toastmasters and guests. Picture in your mind a photograph of me, about 3 years of age, sitting on my back porch in upstate New York with a little blonde neighbor girl who was slight and slouched. My posture was straight like a soldier, confident. I was the master of my backyard. You could tell that I was the president of that little Toastmasters club. Adventures were in my future, and some serious adversity too. As I grew, God and I forged a relationship, one that got me through. I believe God creates us strong enough to handle what comes our way, and that something good comes out of the worst trials. When that strong little kid was 9 years old, she was molested, along with her 7-year-old neighbor, by a 30-year-old guy who lived with his mother. Later, I learned he affected many, many kids. I was not knocked down in an alley, but lured in with pornography. I felt guilty because no one forced me. Although now I realize all kids are curious, just as National Geographic's was checked out at one time, these pictures were powerful bait. I told my parents, and the police were called to my home. My mother had to bring me upstairs to tell me the facts of life so I could understand the questions. I testified in court, and he was put away. A couple of years later, when I was trick-or-treating, the other kids wanted to go to that house. I didn't want to say why I didn't. And would you believe that guy answered the door? He was out of prison already. I was afraid he would come after me, but he didn't. I hated to walk home alone, and after a while, my brother and sister could not be talked into coming and get me. And I was embarrassed to ask my friends. My life went on, and I had many good experiences. My family meandered to almost every state, camping in national parks. I have one memory of seeing a sign for a beauty pageant at the campgrounds. I asked my parents if I could be in it, and they said that I had better not, because what would my talent be? And I thought, how smart. They didn't have to tell me, you're not that good looking. I didn't argue because I didn't sing or juggle plates or anything. And now I think they saved me a lot of embarrassment. Have you seen that awful reality show? And I had not brought a party dress camping. My family went snow skiing and skating, and my father taught me woodworking and oil painting, and my mother taught me how to sew, and we went to a Wilton cake decorating course, and I made my brother's wedding cake and my own wedding cake. I put together bouquets with silk daisies and black-eyed Susans. We were a crafty bunch, my family. We had lots of pets, and we visited my grandparents on their dairy farm. I loved animals, and later I worked at a no-kill animal shelter in New Hampshire. And although my parents were of modest means, they always showed us that life can be great. At age 30, I went back to college and had a speech class. I was talking to a lady who spoke exceptionally well that day, and we realized she knew of my neighborhood. She asked me if I knew the Coopers, which was the one I sent to prison. I said yes, and she said, do you know that that man got out of jail and he died of a painful disease? I said, that's too bad. And I walked away thinking, how strange that that information just dropped in my lap like that. I think God sent me that message of justice so many years later. I didn't waste my years hating or not forgiving. Somehow I left the door open for God to help me. I did not jump to conclusions about what he was like. Some turn away from because there's evil in the world. His original plan did not include sin. And eventually I got to know his real character. I can see God saying to himself, my courageous child right there, I will help her be a boogeyman buster. God does not pick people out for horror, though. He knows the beginning from the end. And this helps me come to terms with the unfairness of it all. God's promises that all things work together for good to those who love him. There is no chance that circumstances will break you unless you won't allow him to help. And when he knocks, get to know him. God also helped me quit smoking. I tried on New Year's Eve 2 years in a row. Each time I lasted about a week. I suffered and eventually gave in. And then the third year I said to myself, this time when the strong urge hits, I'm going to pray through it. And I woke up on the 1st, and I didn't have any urge to smoke. It was totally gone. And I don't remember praying either. I just believe it was the resolve to depend on God's strength that cured me. Last winter, I got a call to jury duty, and it was a molestation of a child case. Counsel briefs you on what reasonable doubt means by questioning various people and asking for feedback. I felt that people had the wrong idea, and I raised my hand and clarified what I thought it meant. He said that was exactly what he was looking for, and he was glad I said it. We had a recess and more waiting, and then the defense, who asked each person if they knew someone affected by this type of crime, the relationship of the person to themselves, and if there was a trial. My tension was rising as it got all the way over to me, and I answered that it was me involved and that there was a trial, and then I broke down and cried a little bit. And they cleared the courtroom and eventually sent the whole jury home. And I believe I tainted the jury panel by presenting myself as quite a normal person and being affected by it 40 years later. I suggest that anyone overcoming any type of adversity to keep an open mind for help from above. It would be a shame to turn away from a healing God that knows all about you and wants to help. Also, if you want to get out of jury duty, try crying.